Just a blessing. Did you, Valerie, did you know that Justin and, what's her name?
Legacy.
Are having a baby?
In August, yes.
Huh?
In August, they're having a baby, yes.
It's a little boy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And we're going to the shower.
Huh?
And there's a baby shower on July 20th, I think.
Okay,
Yes.
well, I didn't know it because Carol was all excited about it, and I said, "What
Oh,
are you
yeah.
so excited about?" She said, "Well, don't you read your emails?"
She
I
got
goes, "Well, once a month I do. I go clean them all out." So she was telling me all about it. And I'm going, "Oh," and I said, "Well, when did it?" She says, "Well, I don't know. I just read it, and it's been in there for a long time."
Yeah.
So anyway, it's pretty good. So she actually got a hold of him and called him and talked to him. She says, "I was really disappointed that you didn't call me personally." "Oh," he says, "I told you I would," because they were over for dinner one night, and they said, "Well, if anything ever happens like that, we'll call you first."
Oh.
So anyway,
They got cried.
okay. Well, last week, I kind of just went through this 2 ark thing, but I wanted to get to a point where, I apologize because I was all over the place, because I was trying to give you some ideas of how many things are in the scriptures that we're taught or we hear of that aren't really in the scriptures, concerning the Arks of the Covenant, the Ark of the Witnesses, the temple, the tabernacle, and so forth, the tent of meetings. But anyway, so what we haven't really spent a lot of time with, other than maybe one half Torah portion, is Joshua, or the book Yeshua. If you read the Hebrew, look at his name in Hebrew, it's Yeshua, which means Yah's deliverance. If you look at the Hebrew meaning of it, it gives you it's only in there one time. Oh, I take that back. That's a different one. Anyway, it's in there and it gives you the word Yeshua, and its base word comes off of Shua, off of a word that's Shah or Shu, S-H-A, Shah. So when you in Yahshua, it gives you Yahuwah's Shah, which is deliverance. It could be looked at as salvation, but it's more about deliverance. So anyway, starting with that, I put my glasses on. If we go to the first chapter of Joshua, okay, and as we're reading through this, and I'm going to read from the King James Version, unless, John, you want to read the first, somebody that has King James Version. Okay, read down through, well, just read down to verse 9.
Okay. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that Yah spoke to Joshua the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, you and all this people, to the land which I am giving them, the children of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given to you, as I said to Moses. From the wilderness in this Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all of the land of the Hittites, and to the great sea toward the going down of the sun, shall be your territory. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. And I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you, nor forsake you. Be strong and of good courage, for to this people you shall divide as an inheritance the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded you, and do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate in it day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid nor be dismayed, for Yah, your Elohim, is with you wherever you go.
So, if we look at this, just this opening to Joshua, it's almost exactly what he said to Abraham. Wherever your feet go, when he into that land from the Euphrates, he gives the same boundaries, he gives the same thing to Moses. Of course, Moses understood it because the book of Genesis was read to him or related to him through the Creator. And so the same thing that he was given to Moses, the same thing that was Abraham was given to Moses. Moses was to lead them into the land, but he kind of failed at one thing, so he led them up to the land. Yeshua, or Joshua, was with Moses throughout the 40 years. And he knew everything that was going on from the time that Moses moved his tent outside of the camp and was meeting with the Creator on a daily basis, or whenever the Creator wanted to speak to Moses. The people always saw the column of smoke leave the tent of meetings in the middle of the tabernacle and go out to Moses' camp, and they met, and that's where he spoke to Moses. And Yeshua was there. It says in the scriptures, he never left that tent in those 40 years. He was the guardian of that tent. So he was told that he was going to take him that he was going to go into the land. When you first see his name in the scripture, it's Husha, which means deliverance. Moses is the one that changed it to, I don't know if Moses did it, but somehow it was changed to Yeshua, and it's translated as Joshua, but it's really Yeshua. And it is in the scriptures in the Old Testament, Yeshua is listed 218 times or something like that. 218 times in the Old Testament you're going to see Yeshua throughout the prophets and through the Tanakh and the writings, okay? Most of them are going to be in this, of course, this book. So I'm bringing that out is because Moses is now the replacement of Yeshua. And he is going to be told what to tell the children, just as Moses did. It's going to, when Yeshua speaks, he speaks to Yeshua, and he's saying, speak to the children. It's the same thing that he did with Moses. So as we read on, when you get into verse 10, Joshua commanded his officers, and when it starts speaking of, just as he did in Moses, when he's talking of Moses and he's speaking to Moses and giving him directions, the Aleph Tav seems to pop up right in the general direction. So in those first 9 verses, it's in there 4 or 5 times. It's in there. It says that when he's speaking to Moses and giving him directions, it's all pointing to that. This is the Creator's. This is his plan. This is what he's speaking, and this is true. So moving on into. Try not to read too much because I'm not a good reader. I read past everything. Most of the things I do, I've read it so many times, and things pop into my head, and I sometimes get off onto little tangents, all right? But as he's getting ready to go across the land, he's preparing the children, okay? And he's giving, Yahuwah is giving him the instructions. And he says, he commanded Yeshua, so Yeshua commanded the officers of the people, saying, pass through, and this is an older version of the King James, pass through the host and command the people, and with this command part has the olive at the top, saying, prepare yourself within 3 days, okay? 3 days to prepare themselves. If we look at that 3 days and go back into Exodus, Exodus 19, we're going to have a point where, well, it's not where they, when they're coming into the land, when they're coming into Mount Sinai, and he tells them that to prepare themselves for the first day, the second day, and on the third day to be ready. Okay, Moses is, at that time, Moses is getting instructions about the witness, okay? And this is where the Ark of the Witness comes in. So he was told to tell the children that he was going to do certain things and that he was going to talk to them. Moses went back and told them, and the people didn't even know what the Creator was going to command of them, and they says, whatever the Creator says, we will do, okay? Then when we go into verse 20, or chapter 20 of Exodus, we see the 10 Commandments, which is the wedding vow, or the ketubah, that the Creator set up. And thinking about the ketubah, the Creator says he wanted to be a husband, he wanted to be the father, he wanted to be the mother. He was the leader of the house of Israel, but he wanted them people to call on him as a husband, not just a father. What was the thing told to Abraham? To cleave unto his wife, right? And the Creator also says, and Yeshua says, that the wife should be submit herself to the husband. But that's not like a heavy-handed type of deal. It means that if you listen to me, I will provide all of your needs. I will provide everything you need. I'll provide your food. I'll provide your protection. I'll provide your house. I'll provide anything. That's what a husband's duty is. Right, John? Mm-hmm. Would you believe that? Mm-hmm. Does anybody not believe that? Years ago, my brother called me up and he says, hey, me and Stephanie, she won't listen to me. She says she doesn't have to listen to me. She's a woman. She's got her own rights. And he says, isn't the man in charge of the house? He says, doesn't she have to do everything I tell her? And I go, well, what do you mean? He says, well, that's what the Bible says. And I said, well, the Bible says that she's supposed to submit to you. So if she submits to you, then you're going to have to provide everything that she needs or wants. He goes, what? And I goes, yeah, that's what it's about. He goes, okay, well, I guess I lose another argument. But in reality, that's what it is. The Creator wants to supply, support, to everything that we want if we adhere to his requirements, right? So that 3 days that he's setting up here, he's having the same picture that they had when they were approaching Mount Sinai. In 3 days, they're getting ready for 3 days to get across the Jordan, all right? And so it's just something that we need to look at, how these things are presented to us throughout the scriptures, that sometimes we don't look at them or sometimes we read them. How many times have you read Joshua?
A bunch.
A bunch, okay? How many times have you just read through it?
A bunch.
A bunch. How many times have you went back and looked at something to see what are they talking about?
Not
okay?
as bunchy.
Huh?
It's not as bunchy.
No, it's not as, most people kind of get past the Torah, and that, don't get me wrong, they'll dig into the Torah and they'll beat their brains out in the Torah trying to figure out, especially when you get to Leviticus. So if you want a teaching on Leviticus, it won't be me, it would have to be David, because he does a pretty good job of it. I still don't understand all of it, but he does a good job. But there's some things that are really hard to understand, and you have to really be adherent to it. And it's not that I understand everything, it's just that I always get this, like I said before, I'm not questioning what the Creator's doing. I'm trying to understand what is happening. What is this doing? Why is it here? Why do we have something here? And then you start thinking about, well, hey, that's almost the same thing it said back here if you start looking at it. So it's like I said before, we have a rerun all the way through the scriptures of over and over and over a repetition of what the Creator wants to do. And this thing with coming out of the wilderness, going across the Jordan and in to possess the land, is just about the same thing as him coming out of Egypt and going to Mount Sinai, where that was where he was going to set up his covenant and his commandments, his teaching and instructions to the people of Israel. And whether you realize it or not, our forefathers said, all you say we will do, we are still obliged to that, because they said it for us. if we believe that we're the descendants of the house of Israel, or we are a part of the house of Israel, then that's exactly what we're obligated to do, all he says we can do. Problem is, we've had a lot of people throughout the centuries telling us how to do things a lot different than the way the Creator processed them. So anyway, getting back to this, the Ark of the Covenant is what I want to talk about, because this is the part that the Ark of the Covenant plays a big part in going into the land. So before this happens, we have another incident where Moses sends in 2 spies. Not a lot different than when in Numbers, when Moses sent in 12 spies. This is only 2 spies, but both the terminology is the same: go in and spy out the land. Okay, so we know what happens there. They go in and they spy out, and we have to deal with what the heck?
Rahab.
Gotta look at the book now. The name of the lady.
Rahab. Rahab.
Yeah, Rahab, I'm sorry. Every time I get there, I always want to do Rachel. Well, she's the most popular person out there, you know. Anyway, so the deal with Rahab, so we know how that works, okay? We know about how that worked, came back, and they were told about how, and what did they learn? It wasn't about spying out the land for how the food was, how the people were. It was about how the people, but not about the food and how it was, everything. She finds out that when they come out, they find out that these people are like jelly. They are so afraid. We haven't even gone in there. They're afraid of us. They've heard how the Creator separated the waters at the Red Sea and brought the whole house of Israel out. They've heard about you've destroyed Og and Magog, or whatever, the two kings out there that they completely destroyed before they came in. And now they're sitting there waiting and thinking, how are we going to fight these people? We have no chance. So this was a very different from the time that the 12 men went out, because you just didn't have 2 people with good reports out of 12. You had 2 people with good reports out of 2. That was 100%. So maybe there was a picture there. Okay?
Same 2 tribes that gave the good report the first time too.
Yeah, the same 2 tribes. So, and going back, when you go back to Numbers, and you're reading Numbers, when you a minute, I got notes on there. When you go back to Numbers, and I'm I really feel bad and embarrassed, because I had all my sheet out with everything I was supposed to hit on. It's still in my computer. But anyway, when they had come back and they're giving the names of the people that went out, there's one name in there in Asher, the son of Asher, Satorah, is only in the scriptures 1 time. And it's the only name in the scriptures that has the value of 666. And it's only 1 time in the scripture. And the word that it comes from, the base word from it, what it comes about, is stranger, something that means like an enemy or a dissident or something. And it's only in there 1 time. So it's very strange. I just brought that up because for years, this started with Brad Scott about 15 years ago, or maybe 20 years ago. Yeah, it's probably about 18 years ago. We had a long conversation, and that came up. We were talking about Revelation, and he brought that up, so we looked it up and went through it on a trip that we had a little time to speak together. And so it's always been intriguing to me that 666 only shows that 1 name throughout all the scriptures. And it's out of the tribe of Asher, or maybe a person that's supposedly out of the tribe of Asher that's maybe something other than what they're supposed to be. So something to think about, John. You can do some study on it. See what you come up with. I just brought that up because every time I go back and read that deal about the 12 spies going into the land, I run across that. Anyway, as we're going getting ready to go across the Jordan River, there's a lot of things that are happening. He's tuning up the priest. Let's see. I got another little spot here. Excuse me. Give me a second here. Okay, well, we went through the spies on that. Go into chapter 3 of Joshua, if you want to turn there. So it says, and Joshua rose early in the morning, and they removed from Shittim, and came to the Jordan, he and all of the children of Israel, and lodged there before they passed over. And it came to pass after 3 days, there's the 3 days that I was talking about, after 3 days, that the officer went through the host. That's, I guess that in the Old Hebrew, or in the Old King James, that was through the people. Is that what yours says, through the people, or through the, verse 2 of chapter 3?
The people, yeah, they commanded the people.
Right, okay, so
yeah.
I'll change it now. And they commanded the people, saying, when you see the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah, your Elohim, and the priests, the Levites, bearing it, then ye shall remove from your place and go after it. So in other words, move over, remove your plate, remove from here and go after it. Okay. So it says that when the priests bear the ark of the covenant. Well, if we go back to Numbers and look at the order of the way let me go back there, Numbers 6, I think. Well, I'm telling you, I'm getting really, go back to the, okay. Well, anyway, when you're going out, when they're getting the order to move the tabernacle, or to move the people, or to go from one place to another, there's a certain order. You have the tribe that's led by Yehuda goes first, and then you have the tabernacle, the tabernacle itself with the tent, with the ark. And then following that is the next set of tribes, the ones with Reuben in it. And then you have those priests that are carrying all the utensils of the tent of meetings, of the holy place and the most holy, okay? So when you're reading this, these are all covered, all these items are completely covered. They're all covered with some type of covering, a cloth, canvas or whatever. It's always purple, I think. And then the next group is the structure itself of the tabernacle, the wood structure. And then you got another set of tribes, and then you've got the last bunch is the walls and stuff. So when they take that tabernacle down, it was always the column of flame or column of smoke would be 3 days ahead of them. The Ark of the Covenant and Moses' tent would be following it, and there would be priests carrying it, but there's no specific priests there. In this case, there's a certain group of priests that can only handle the Ark and the utensils that are in the tent of meetings, and that's the Gergesites, I think. Gershons.
Don't remember.
I'm pretty sure. So anyway, and then, but the head priest's son, Eleazar, was in charge of all of that to make sure it was done the proper way. The next group is, everything's gone, is put on wagons. Everything that goes out first is carried by hand. So you have people carrying the lampstand, the showbread, the ark of the incense, or the covenant of, or the ark, not the ark, but the incense that the golden altar, and the ark of the covenant. It's all covered, and they're all carried by the priest. The priest is one group, and it's part of the the Levites. So then you have the other group is the ones that carry all the metal, all the heavy stuff, the wood, the boards, and everything. Those are on wagons and oxen, but the ark is never touched by anybody but the priesthood, and they're always covered. And it's always protected by groups of people. So when you look at this, going across this, when they're taking the Ark of the Covenant across, it's just the priests walk out into the water with the Ark of the Covenant. Because the Ark of the Covenant is what's leading everybody. It's not the Ark of the Witness, it's the Ark of the Covenant. So in verse 3 it says, and they commanded the people, saying, and when you see the Ark, I'm repeating this, the Ark of the Covenant of Yahuwah, your Elohim, and the priests, the Levites, bearing it, then you shall remove from your place and go after it, okay? So then it says, yet there shall be a space between you and about 2,000 cubits, and I didn't measure that out, but it's a good piece. Measure, do not come near until it is at that you may know the way by which we must go, for ye have not passed this way before. So in other words, this was going to be the Ark of the Covenant was going to be in the water, and it's going to be on its way there. It's going to be quite a distance out there, 2,000 cubits. David can figure that out in his head real quick. Anyway, so that they don't get lost. They don't want anybody to get up there and go the wrong direction. So and then said, you said unto Yeshua, this is the day that I will begin to magnify you in the sight of all Israel, that they may know that as I was with Moses, I will be with you. So that's very important, because now the people are going to know who their leader is for sure. And supposedly they're going to listen to everything that he says, like they did to Moses. And he'll probably get blamed for everything that goes wrong, like they blamed Moses. But anyway, and it says, in verse 8, it says, and thou shalt command the priests that bear the Ark of the Covenant, saying, when you come to the brink of the water of the Jordan, you shall stand still in the Jordan. And Yeshua said unto the children of Israel, come here and hear the words of Yahuwah, your Elohim. And Yeshua said, hereby you shall know that the living Elohim among you, and that he will without fail drive out from before you the Chaldeans, the Hittites, the Hivites, the Petzerites, the Gregorites, and the Amorites, and the Jebusites, and the Mosquitobites. And so, and in all of that, just that little piece there, every one of these little spots, the Aleph Tav is there. These are the words of the Creator. This is his words. They're true. It's nothing added to it, okay? And behold, the Ark of the Covenant of Yahuwah of all the earth passes over before you into the Jordan. Now therefore take you 12 men, those of the house of Israel, out of every tribe, a man. And it shall come to pass, as soon as the soles of their feet of the priests that bear the Ark of Yahuwah, now they've called it the Ark of Yahuwah in this case, because it is before they refer to the Ark of the Covenant of Yahuwah. He's your Adonai of all the earth, or the Lord of all the earth, and shall rest in the waters of the Jordan, that the waters of the Jordan shall be cut off, and the waters that come down from above, they shall all stand upon you, upon a heap. And it came to pass, when the people removed from their tents to pass over the Jordan, and the priest bearing the Ark of the Covenant before the people, and they and they that bear the ark were come unto Jordan, and the feet of the priests that bear the ark were dipped in the brine of the water, for the Jordan overflowed, and all of his banks, and all of the time of the harvest. Okay, so I guess it was held back for quite a while. And the waters which came down from above stood and rose up upon a heap, very far from the city, upon the sea of the plain, and even the salt sea failed, and they were cut off. And the people passed over right against Jericho, stood firm on dry ground in the midst of the Jordan, and all the Israelites passed over on dry ground until all the people were passed clean over the Jordan. And of course, the last part has the olive top in it. So we understand that when they hit the water, and I hate reading, I can't read that very good because it's got the too many Z's and thous in it. That's an old version, I think a 2009 version. Anyway, when their feet hit the water, that water parted, and all the people passed over before it. Now, that's not the normal procedure, because all the people passed over. It doesn't say anything about the tabernacle or the rest of the priest or anything in there. And so maybe a reason for it, because as they went across, it put all the people on the west side of the Jordan, and the first three groups of people that went across was the three tribes of Manasseh. The half tribe of Manasseh, Gad, and Reuben were the first ones to go across. They were sent out. They were told to go ahead. That's what we'll read later on. So anyway, and then when we get to chapter 4, and it came to be when the entire nation had completely passed over the Jordan that Yahuwah spoke to Yeshua, saying, take for yourselves the 12 men from the people, one man from every tribe, and command them, saying, take for yourself 12 stones, one from there out of the midst of the Jordan, from the place where the priest's feet stood firm, and you shall bring them with you, and leave them in the camp in which you spend the night. And Yeshua called the 12 men who he had appointed, they did their thing. And Yeshua said to them, pass over before the ark of Yahuwah, your Elohim, into the midst of the Jordan, and each of you take up a stone on your shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel. And so that this shall be a sign in your midst when your children ask in time to come, saying, what do these stones mean to you? Then you shall answer them with the Mayim of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah, when it passed over the Jordan. And it's, as a remembrance, okay. So anyway, so as you're going on down, I'll skip that rest of it. It's just some filler words in there. So anyway, Yahuwah spoke to Yeshua. I'm in verse 18. Command the priests who bear the ark of the witness, let them come up from the Jordan. So now we're talking about they're coming up from the Jordan, or coming across the Jordan, or coming through the Jordan, okay, or through the Jordan River. That's the first time we see the ark of the witness involved in this, okay? And then come up from, and then it came to be when the priest who bore the ark of the covenant of the Yahuwah had come from the midst of the Jordan, and the soles of their feet hit the ground, touched the dry land, the Mayim, or the waters of the Jordan, returned to their place and flowed over all the banks. And the people came up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first moon, and they camped at Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. And the 12 stones were put in the camp. So of all of that coming across, we see the Ark of the Witness was the last thing that went across before the Ark of the Covenant came out of the water. The reason I'm pointing that out is because there's two arks. And the Ark of the Covenant, as we go through Yeshua, with this book, and I hope to have a little bit more detail on it, following the ark through the times of Joshua, up to the time that David takes hold of the ark and command on it, and we do it in short bursts. But we've never went completely through Joshua in any teaching here. The only one that I found is a Haftorah portion that deals with the spies, going in and spying out the land, and it's tied to the numbers going in and spying out the land. And so that was about the 34th portion of Torah, somewhere in that area, 34 to 37. So when we're looking at that, we never got into that much on Joshua. I think there's only one Haftorah portion that's even out of the book of Joshua. But if we read it, and I've read it several times, there's commandments in there that he gave to Yeshua to tell the children of Israel to do. These are things that they didn't do. Most of it was about when they were dividing the land, and when the disobedience came very early. It's almost just like when they were at Mount Sinai, when the first thing they did, when Moses didn't come back from down on the mountain, was they built the golden calf, right? And we had the big party and the whole bit, and everything went on. In this instance, the first thing that they did was they set aside all of the gold and treasures were to go to the tabernacle, to the high priest. And one guy decided to stash some in his tent. So right away, a direct command that was given was violated right after it was given. So it's kind of a picture of the house of Israel all the way through the scriptures. But anyway, so this witness that we're talking about, I'm gonna have to bite my tongue a little bit because I'm not gonna say never, but I think the last thing we hear of it is when they set up the tabernacle in Shiloh. And we never hear of it. I asked David one time, I said, where in the heck did the Ark of the Witness go? And he says, go read Revelations. It'll tell you, because it gives you a picture of it. John's seen it with Yahuwah sitting above it on the mercy seat. And looking at the altar of incense and the prayers, the incense being offered were the prayers of the saints coming up to him. And I went back and read that 100 times, and that's the only place you see the Ark of the Witness again, is in that one spot. It's pretty interesting. So the power of the Creator that made something, that he could put something in the mind of a man like Moses, and the man that built the ark and all of the utensils could put it in there, and they could make it exactly the way he wanted it. And when it disappeared, it disappeared. It went with him. He took it with him. We know that the Ark of the Covenant and everything that was put into the temple was all man-made. And I know Dave's gonna laugh. I will always ask him, I says, how come the menorah doesn't look like an olive tree or an almond tree? Because that's the picture it gives you. An almond tree with a bud and a bowl, and a bud and a bowl, and a bud and a bowl. That's three flames on each one with reflectors. I brought that up. Well, the menorahs that we see are all this nice hand carved, and they're beautiful, but it's what man, because nobody ever seen them except the man that made them, and Moses, and the high priest would have been the only one that's seen those things, or the high priesthood. So anyway, I know I'm a little bit short on this thing, but I know you guys won't mind me getting out early. But I probably next week, if I'm still teaching, I think John told me to do a couple weeks.
You can.
And I would like to go through, in your spare time, run through the book of Moses and just read up on it, so that when I start talking, you'll know when I'm messing up.
You mean Joshua, right?
Yeah, Joshua, and you'll be you'll know I'd be messing up. So if you read it ahead of time, you'll know, hey, that ain't right. Because I think it's going to be very interesting to follow the Ark of the Covenant, because we're going to see it a lot of times, but we never see the Ark of the Witness. And I think it's going to give you a better idea of what it's all about. And again, what I said last week, the Ark of the Witness is the witness that was given to man. This is your copy of the Ketubah. right here in this box, don't lose it. We don't know where it's at, so we lost it somewhere. But this is what he had. He said, Moses, you do the slab, you do the tablets, and I'll write on it what I did the first one. And you put it in that box, and you make a box. That's all it is a box. There's no lid on it. We can prove that. The Ark of the Witness has that witness that was broken. And it has the staff of Aaron and the manna in it. And if, like somebody said last week, I'll bet you that Aaron and manna, it hasn't dehydrated or
That's right.
got worms or nothing. It's still the same as it was the day they put it in there, and I really believe that. So we know that that was when he did that ketubah, that was a marriage proposal. And he gave them, he said, these are the rules, don't do this, the first 4 commandments, and then this is how I want you to live your life with your brothers and sisters. This is how you live it with me, and this is how you live it with your brothers and sisters. You do that, man, we're fine, and everything's gonna be nice, and then the first thing they did, they broke it. And that's why that's called the Ark of the Witness. That's his copy, it's in his possession, and he's there to prove, if anybody needs proof, of how bad people were, because he has the 3 witnesses, and we have it in the scriptures, every one of them, why they're there. So with that, I'll close, okay? Questions?
No, I just want to tie a couple of
Rocks.
things. I want to tie a couple of things together. For years, I was wondering when the 2 spies went in, what kind of reconnaissance did they get? What kind of information did they get? And the more you read through things, you pick up these little things as you're familiar with what you've read. You pick up other little details. Well, at the mountain, at Mount Sinai, after the 10 words, Exodus goes on, and in Exodus 23:20, Yah says, "I will send an angel ahead of you." That angel was seen before Joshua crossed that river. He met with him the night his sword was drawn. The reconnaissance that they got was just reassurance from Rahab and on that side that God has kept his promise.
Yeah.
He did send his angel before him.
Yeah, somebody went in and spread the word around to the people in there. They had to get there. They didn't have telegraphs. I know they didn't have computers.
And CNN
If they
wasn't
did,
around, so yeah,
Somebody would have banned it. They wouldn't have been able to put it on there. So.
right.
But
So-
anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just it's a consistent story. He never changes the storyline and the focus. And as far as those 12 stones go that they brought up, I believe firmly that when John the Baptist was baptizing and he told the Pharisees, God can make children out of these stones, those were the 12 stones he was pointing to.
Why else would it be in there? Why would it come about? I told you how important stones are to the Creator.
Exactly.
'Cause it's a picture of man to start with,
Right.
right? That
And it
onyx
just-
stones.
And it just shows the continuation of the story.
Well, the one thing about it, we know for sure, that the people were deathly afraid of whatever was happening.
Yes.
Because as soon as they found out, when they asked Rahab about, when the king called her down there and wanted to know where these guys were, well, they left. They went down and
One more point that you kind of opened my eyes up to today as we were going through this. As many times as I've read that story, I know it was quite a while that river stopped and the water was banked up back there.
well, look at the harvest thing in there.
Uh-huh.
It says the time of harvest.
Right, it was at flood level, yes.
Yeah, so anything downriver from it wasn't getting their water.
Right.
I don't know. They said it was only 3 days. I don't know how long they took them to get across there,
Well,
but it was
that's-
3 days
that-
before they started.
That's another thing I wanted to point out, as you said, there was supposed to be a distance between them. Well, if you use 18 inches as a cubit, that's 3,000 feet. If you use 24 inches, that's 6,000 feet.
Yeah, well,
That they're supposed to be away from the ark. So
Well, 3,000 feet would sound pretty average because it was 3 days out, 3 days, 3 days, 3,000 foot would sound like probably, I don't know. what is it, 19 and a half, 18, 19 and a half,
18 and a half.
18 and a half?
Oh, I left out a half inch, so.
Yeah,
you're
so
probably-
3,000, so 3,000.
Probably 3,600, somewhere around there.
It's still quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
Nothing's
Yeah.
exact, like your father, nothing.
So, but they were walking around the ark, you know, they.
Well, yeah, the ark was there and they were going around it, so it had to be a widespread. How
That's
many-
exactly right.
Think of how many people that is. You're talking, just in the men was over 900,000,
Yeah.
right? So you're talking a couple million of people, plus all their livestock had to go across too.
Right.
And then I think that's the only time that everybody went across before the ark did. The Ark of the Witness, and the way I read it, okay?
Yeah,
And you might get different stories. I've never heard anybody want to really teach. Sometimes they don't teach on things that they don't want to teach.
right.
But they don't look, they say, well, I think it's this, I think it's this, but they don't want anybody to know that that's what they think. I guess, I don't know. I don't care because, you know, I'm not saying I'm right or wrong or anything. I'm just saying when you read it and you put some thought into it, there's got to be some logic to it. And the problem is we don't use the same logic as the Creator. It's just like His time. We don't have a clue what time we're even in or what time it is. We don't, you know, we have nothing. We just.
Once you get past daytime, I don't know.
I know daylight and nighttime, okay, and we know we can know when the new moon is, okay? We can figure that out. Whether you do it by the sliver of the moon or dark of the moon, or we know that there's a new moon at a certain time of the month, and there's a full moon. But we don't know what moons they are. Hopefully, we're getting them right.
So let me delve
But we're not
into,
in the land, so.
let me delve into one of your opinions then. As long as we've talked about pictures all through the scripture, is it gonna be something similar to this when Yeshua leads us into the land?
Well, yeah, it's gonna be repeated. It's gonna be the greater Exodus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm assuming there's gonna be not only people that have died and have been resurrected, there's gonna be living people that are in that group too, okay? And so I would imagine it would be something the same way when we're led into, because He's gonna have to make the path for the whole world to come into the promised land. Where's the kingdom gonna be set up?
Mhm.
In the promised land,
Right.
right? So, I'm sure that He's gonna make a way for it, and it's gonna be something the same, just the same. But only, we don't have to worry about, because He's gonna cleanse the land before we ever get there, so there's not gonna be any war or battle, because He's already taken care of that. So, you know, when we were talking last week, our friend over here, and he said this is 36 and 37,
Yeah.
Ezekiel 36 and 37.
Yeah,
Well, we have to look at that war is a war that the Creator does, because it's a one-day deal. It's a one-day shot. Everybody gets there and then He annihilates them. It's done. That's his battle. That's the one He's going to clean the land. That's how He's going to go into the land before us and cleanse it for His kingdom.
I work all planets.
So-
You got the moons, you got the planets, the reason why everything has a way of it, and everything else is like, you get the format. We got people that need to go other places. We got more to learn, more to do. Everybody wants an adventure. It's better than keeping them lazy like it's close to and looking at me going work all the time. So you guys got the aptitude and the mind to do something. Here, look at this real quick and go see if you can come up
Yeah,
with
He
an
wants,
itinerary.
He wants us to do something, but there's going to come to the time where He's going to do it. He's going to make sure it happens.
Reality. That way people don't get this misappropriation until they have to die.
Anyway. As we move on. I think there would be, if this is types and shadows and pictures, because we hear types and shadows, you know, the feast days are
Right.
types and shadows and pictures and rehearsals. So why wouldn't we have pictures of everything happening? Look, when you start with creation, and you can go see the creation stories told over several times throughout Scripture, just in different words and different manners by different pictures.
right.
But it's still the same creation, so.
I'm like,
Anyway, anybody else? David? Nothing? All right, listen, guys. Take a look at Joshua, and we'll go through that next week, and we'll follow the Ark of the Covenant and get a pattern on that and a path, and see how the Ark was used in everything they did while they were going into the land to take the land, and how it ends up where it ends up. Okay? All right? It's time to prepare ourselves for the blessing.